Hi, this video is going to help you to round numbers to the nearest unit and to a given number of decimal places. If you haven't watched the first video on rounding, you may want to just to refresh how you round to the nearest 10 or the nearest 100. Okay, this first question here says round 7.248 to the nearest unit. And the key thing when you're rounding is, remember, this is saying which whole unit, which integer is 7.248 closest to. So I tend to go for a number line. I know this number is between 7 and 8, and 7.2 is around about here. 7.248 goes in there, and hopefully you can see that is a lot closer, there's a halfway point, to 7 than it is to 8. So I would say if I'm rounding 7.248 to the nearest unit, it would round to make 7. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. 8.610 to the nearest unit. Oops, let's just do that. Okay, so once again, I do myself a little number line. I might do this in my head actually rather than write it out on a piece of paper if I got really good at this. Okay, and 8.5 is about in there, and we want 8.610. 8.610 is about there, a little bit bigger than 8.5, and therefore it's going to be closer to 9. So if I was rounding this, 8.610 to the nearest unit, the nearest whole number, would make 9. Okay. This one here, round 9.08 to the nearest whole number, nearest units. Okay, so once again we'll go for a number line. Now I know 9.08 is bigger than 9, but smaller than 10. But 9.08, this is like £9 and 8 pence. Okay, it's nowhere near £9.50. Right, so it's right down here, £9 and 8 pence, just in there. Okay, so we say that rounds to 9 to the nearest whole units. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward when you've got a number line there in front of you, and if you can put the decimal in the right place. Okay, that might be something that might give you a bit of trouble, is getting the decimal in the right place. Here you can see 7.248. There might be some people out there who don't know where to put that on the number line. Is it up here or is it down there? Okay, it might be worthwhile just checking out some more videos on YouTube to see if you can find out how to put these numbers in the right place on the number line. However, that's not the topic of what we're doing here. We're looking at rounding, so we're now going to carry on. We're going to look at some rounding to one decimal place. Okay, here is a question. So a question says, right, you're going to round your answer to one decimal place. What does that mean? Well, I always think that that means you've got to round it so that it's one of two numbers. Okay, as usual, we'll draw a number line. It's got to be closer. Now, one decimal place means that the two possible candidates for rounding have to just have one decimal place, one digit after the decimal point. So I'm going to choose 4.3 and 4.4. Okay, another way to think about that is just to put a box around here and just say, look, I want to chop my number so that it's got one decimal place. Nothing else, no digits after that first digit after the decimal point. Just one digit after the decimal point. So I'm going to choose 4.3 or 4.4. Those are my two possible candidates. All I need to do now is go back to my original number, 4.381. Now 4.381, if I put on halfway, which is 4.35, 4.381 will be around about here. So as you can see, that's closer to 4.4. So when I write my answer, I would say it rounds to 4.4. Okay, here's another one to one decimal place. Let's see if we can do this one. 16.249. So again, I have to choose my two possible answers, my candidates for the correct rounding. Okay, I can do that by putting a box and saying, right, 1 decimal place means I kind of want to chop it. I want to make my answer 16.2, but maybe I'll have to go to 16.3, depending on which one it's closer to. So I pop those in. I put 16.25 in the middle there, halfway between, and then I look at my number to round, which is 16.249. 16.249 goes just in there somewhere, like that. So you can see it's just about closer to 16.2. And that would be my rounded answer. I've rounded it to 1 decimal place. What about 2 decimal places? Well, it's the same rule really. Look, we're trying to find now two numbers with 2 decimal places. So if I do the box again, this time I want to chop my number off here. I want there to be 2 digits after the decimal point. So I'm looking at probably rounding to 2.00, but I have to just check. Maybe I need to round to the next number up, 2.01. So let's just do that check. Where does halfway lie? Well, halfway is going to be here, 2.005. And the number we're trying to round is this one, 2.0041. And therefore you can see quite clearly it's closer to 2.00. So I would write my rounded answer 2.00. And last of all, we've got round 0.0194 to the nearest thousandth. Okay, so I've changed the wording here. No longer talking about decimal places, talking about thousandths. And what you have to know for this is you have to know that numbers work like this. You've got your hundreds, tens and units, decimal point, tenths, hundredths, and then thousandths. So that 9 is the thousandths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put a box which goes up to the thousandths. Like that. I think I've done it. Okay, that 9 is the thousandths column. So I'm rounding like this. And again, I put my number line. Now, probably 0.019. Okay, that's what my initial thinking is. But, you know, you've always got to check. You've got to check whether this is going to go up to the next number, which is 0.020. Like that. And what you do is you go halfway, which is 0.0195. Then you check out your number, which is 0.0194, slightly smaller, and it's closer. Okay, so the answer for this one would round to 0.019 if I was using 3 decimal places or the nearest thousandth. There is a sort of shortcut way that you can do these roundings. If I take just one of those last examples, okay, this one here, 2.0041 rounded to 2 decimal places. Okay, when I was putting the box in there, right, the box tells you where to chop your number off if you like. So there's my 2 decimal places. If you check the next digit, if it's 5 or more, round up. Otherwise, just leave it as it is. Just leave the number in the box and the answer 2.00. Okay, so that's a shortcut way you can do. Put your box in, decide where you're going to chop the number, because you're sort of shortening it. That's what rounding is, sort of shortening the number, and making sure that you've got check the next digit, see if it's 5 or more. If it is, you just round up to the next available number.